Before we get into tonight's review, I have one very important question to ask you. Do you think she's hot? Well, if you do, then I think you're gonna like Lifeforce, because she's naked the whole time. It opens up on board a spaceship called the Churchill. Their mission? To study and explore Halley's Comet. As they get closer to it, however, they spot something huge hidden in the head of the comet. It's a 150-mile long spaceship. They try to get a message back to their base, but there's just too much interference. So some of the crew decide to go out and take a closer look for themselves. When they get inside, they can see that this thing is indeed huge, but it's been a while since anything lived in here. It's empty and derelict. They do see all these giant bat-looking things floating around, which they assume were the main occupants. They bag up one of them and decide to take it back to the ship, but first, a little more exploring. They make it into the main chamber, and, much to their surprise, they see 3 human-looking bodies in a sort of suspended animation. The main commander, Carlson, seems to be put under a trance. Or maybe he's just simping really hard. Do you blame him? Well, eventually he snaps out of it, and they manage to bring the 3 aliens and 1 dead bat creature back to their ship. 30 days later, Earth has lost contact with the Churchill, but they can see that it's come back into our atmosphere. So they send another ship up to investigate. Once they get inside, they can see that a fire had broken out and destroyed everything. Well, everything except our 3 friends.
Houston, we have a problem.
They bring the bodies back with them to Earth and immediately plan on dissecting them to see exactly what these creatures are. Just as the pathologist starts to work, the space girl wakes up. Another doctor, who had been watching via a video monitor, comes running to see what's up. But this facility must be huge, because it takes him forever to get there. While he's running, the alien chick starts making out with the pathologist, and he's just like, nice. Then there's a lightning storm, and she sucks him dry, and not in a good way. The other doctor gets there, and she comes on to him, and he's just like, well, you're hot, so I can't refuse.
Use my body.
At this point, the guy in charge, Falada, sees what's happening, and he goes to get some men to stop it. But by the time he gets there, she's gone. Having taken only just a little bit of the other guy's life force, and not sucking him completely dry. It shouldn't be too hard to stop a fully nude girl from escaping the facility. Surely someone would notice that. Eventually, 3 guards corner her in the lobby, but she force chokes them and uses the dark side to escape out into the streets of London. Having little hope of finding her now, they go back to the doctor, who is still alive. They ask how a little woman was able to overpower him, and he basically says that she's super hot.
Was it sexual?
Yes, overwhelmingly so.
A little later, we learn that one of the escape pods that was aboard the Churchill is missing, so maybe someone on the crew survived. Falada also talks to Colonel Kane a little bit about the afterlife, and how our life force is conserved even after death. But where does it go?
Is there?
What?
Life after death?
Do you really want to know?
No.
There's still 2 male aliens in the facility to worry about, and they're ready for a fight. After 2 guards shoot the crap out of them to no avail, they're defeated, and the aliens take the guards' likenesses. So they can also switch bodies. That's going to complicate things a bit. Now, they start an autopsy on one of the guards that got sucked dry. He's exactly 2 hours dead, but when they go to cut him open, he wakes up. And he sounds like a farm animal being butchered. Ugh, make it stop. He gets up and sucks another one of the doctors dry, taking his life force, and thus reviving him. After he sees what he's done, he's scared, and they put him into isolation. So basically, if you haven't caught on yet, they're like vampires, sucking their victims dry to rejuvenate themselves. But it seems like they have to do this every 2 hours, or else they'll get all shriveled and wrinkly again. And if left for too long without life force, they'll blow up. It shouldn't be too hard to stop them, just wait until they blow up. But the female is still on the loose, and with plenty of victims in the city to suck dry. Now, somewhere in Texas, the escape pod is found, with only one survivor, Colonel Carlson. Hopefully now they can finally get some answers. He fills them in on what he knows, which might sound crazy, but after what these guys have seen, well, they're used to crazy. He explains how they found this ship in front of Halley's Comet, and how they brought 3 human-looking aliens on board the Churchill. But that's when things started to go downhill. Slowly, the crew was acting out, destroying the radio equipment, but later not being able to remember doing it. It wasn't long before bodies were found, sucked dry. Carlson knew he couldn't expose the world to this curse, so he opened up all the ship's oxygen tanks and started a fire to hopefully destroy the space vampires. But the whole time he did it, he said that part of him didn't want to hurt them. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Even though she killed all of his friends, he still loved her and didn't want to leave.
Leaving her was the hardest thing I ever did.
Everyone thinks it's best for Carlson to just get some sleep, but when he dreams, he can still only dream about the space girl. Of course, they do it, but when he wakes up in a cold sweat, he now feels connected to her, almost like a psychic link, and he's able to track her down. Under hypnosis, they discover that she transferred bodies into this lady, who's now wearing clothes. Boo! She goes around sucking guys dry until she eventually heads home to an insane asylum. So that's where the guys go. Once there, they meet with the guy in charge, Dr. Armstrong, played by Sir Patrick Stewart. Huh, I didn't expect to see him in this movie. Well, he shows them to where this lady lives as a long-term patient at the facility. Once in her room, Carlson can tell that the space girl isn't inside anymore, and she's moved on. But to whom? Well, that's what he's bound and determined to figure out. And eventually he sees who she transferred into next. Dr. Armstrong! They inject him with a drug that will put him under hypnosis, and then they wheel him into the surgery room. Man, is it in Patrick Stewart's contract that he has to be in a wheelchair in every movie he's in? Well, we see that Carlson was right. She is possessing Dr. Armstrong. Here he learns why she seems to be affecting him more than others. It's because she chose him. She looked into his mind the second he went on their ship, and she turned into what his idea of a perfect woman is. Good taste, my friend. When she did this, she took a little bit of his life force. But in order to take the shape of a woman and learn the language and everything else, she had to give him a little bit of her life force too, thus the psychic connection. Then, when he leans in for a kiss, a lightning storm breaks out in the room. They inject Armstrong with more of the drug, but were they too late? While flying home, the guys finally get some good news. Falada has found a way to kill the space vampires. And it's basically the same way you would kill real vampires. Impale them with a stake. But here, it has to be made of leaded iron, and just below the heart, where the body stores its life force. Falada also believes that these creatures have been to Earth before, and that's what started the whole vampire lore. Just as they hang up with him, blood starts pouring out of Dr. Armstrong and forms into the girl. Ew. She escapes out the helicopter and now is somewhere in London. Good luck, guys. As they land, they also learn that the city has been put under martial law. That's right, things haven't been going so well in the city. People are turning left and right, and they must feed every 2 hours. The guys know that there's only one way to stop this. If they can kill the girl, then it's all over. But where is she? Well, the giant blue light in the middle of town might be a good hint. It turns out that what's happening here is the last male vampire is feeding her souls, which she's transporting to the mothership, I guess to feast on later. Carlson goes directly to her, while Kane goes to Falada to get the sword. Falada is now one of them, and his soul gets sucked up. But hey, at least they got the sword. He runs over to help end it all, and when he gets to the cathedral, there are bodies piled up everywhere. He's almost to the door, but the male vampire stops him. He tells Kane to just give in. It would be so much easier. But he refuses and stabs the monster, which makes him turn into his true form for just a bit. Which looks pretty cool. Once inside, Kane sees that Carlson has already, let's say found the space girl, and they're getting it on. He is able to resist her just long enough, however, to grab the sword and shove it through both of them. Together, they're sucked up into their penis-looking spaceship and head off to find another planet to suck dry. And that was Lifeforce. Probably not the best movie to watch with your parents. That might get a little awkward with all the female nudity in it. Imagine being a teenager back on your first date in 1985 and you take her to see this movie. I don't think she'd go out with you again. Honestly, all the nudity aside, Lifeforce is a pretty interesting movie. They always keep you on your toes and trickle in more information about the vampire lore. Heck, even in the last 10 minutes they add something new with all the human souls going up to the mothership. And how about that ending? It was kind of a bummer, right? We didn't really win, and we didn't really lose. Sure, Kane and Carlson stopped them, but when Halley's Comet comes back around, well, they're just gonna attack again. The last time the comet was seen on Earth was in 1986, which means we've got until 2062 to prepare for another vampiric plague. But if they do come back looking like this, well, I guess I'm a goner. Some people's dream job might be to become an astronaut, a doctor, or even a race car driver. But my dream job would be to be the makeup artist on the set of Lifeforce. Actually, Nick Maley, the guy who did the makeup, worked 70 to 90 hours a week. And in the end, he said he didn't mind at all because he was working with an 18-year-old naked woman the whole time. I'm pretty sure he could have gotten the job done in about 10 minutes. But hey, who am I to judge? I get that there is deeper underlining tones here. Director Tobe Hooper said it's a movie about men dealing with the feminine mystique, or the feminine terror. And I get it. Women could easily take over the planet. All they have to do is walk around naked. All in all, I recommend Lifeforce. Even if it didn't have all the nude space girls in every other scene, it's a good movie. I give it 3 phallic spaceships out of 4.
Don't worry, a naked girl is not going to get out of this complex.